This uh, my notes on this topic and why I'm switching my consideration about what I consider to be fasting and why it is that I am considering this modality as compared to what I consider to be the starvation modality of fasting. Welcome to AI Health Insight. Moses here, and today we are discussing the healing protocol, the framework known as the Cheerio protocol, which says that in the day, generally what we are doing is stimulating the body with all our various stimulants, whether it is activity, whether we are interacting with our folk or interacting with our environment, or whether we are taking herbal medicine or we are taking some type of pharmaceutical medicine, whether we are hiking, walking, running, jumping, whatever we are doing, sending signals from the outside world or from the inside world, the mind, the brain, into the nucleus and asking the nucleus to create certain chemicals. And these certain chemicals are created when the nucleus sends a message to the ribosomes, and the ribosomes make these certain chemicals. We call them human protein in this dialogue. And human protein is created not from some magical dust, but from amino acids, specifically the 8 to 9 essential amino acid must be present, or else you'll be forcing your ribosomes to ask somebody to create amino acid, which generally could be the liver, which would then start basically eating your body. Now, if you believe this story that I just gave, then you would understand why I'm changing my idea about fasting. Of course, I do believe this story because this is the experience that would have happened to me when I was taking treatments for, yes, well, we know what. So, here is where we have to understand when we go into the fasting state, we are also stimulating the body or stimulating the cells or sending signals to the nucleus, telling the nucleus, hey, I would like to clean out the body. Therefore, the nucleus will heighten messages to the ribosomes because you are fasting or you're in a state of slowness or you're in a state of not so much of activity. So you are going into the state of what we call rest, and that means that the nucleus would then take the opportunity to tell the ribosomes to create a specific certain type of protein. Now, this is where if you stick into this video, you'll see why this is the pattern of or the framework of what might be part of the story in the human story creation. So we may need to upgrade our ideas about fasting after looking at these videos. The image used in this is from this online here, so you could click on get the image there. Let me jump to the second slide. So in our thinking, we are also trying to change ourselves by trying to become more aware, and I am becoming more aware. So here is where awareness. This is an awareness information session, and when you get aware, you are not anywhere close. That's level 0. So you need to look into things, and then you may, after looking into things, start getting a desire where you start realizing these things could be useful for you. You want to be testing it out, trying it out, and then you may start developing the knowledge set that goes along with that thing, that event, or whatever. That's where you start changing when you develop the knowledge. But of course, knowledge by itself is no power unless it is applied. So the next step is the application of the knowledge. And of course, once the knowledge is applied, you are basically doing something. And when you start doing something, something should happen. And when that thing happens and you like it or you don't like it, when it happens, you may want to consider it for long term, which means you may want to do it revolvingly over and over and over again. In this session, we are only focused on point number 1, awareness. And the key messages here is for a discovery of something new or a new way of thinking, or new operations, and new processes, new something new, or something that you may just be renewing. First of all, you have to ask yourself at the end, the reflection of this video would be why, if this has caught your attention, what about it has caught your attention, and whether you are in the state of saying this should be worthy of exploring. You, as the individual, should be worthy of exploring more details. That means you are then starting the state of desire. So into today's video, we are looking at, this is the image that is complement the link in the video of the from humanbiology.com. So this is an awareness session. So this is just a graphic of a representation of the cell. I have blocked out those that I don't want to speak about. We want to speak about the nucleus. This is the middle of the cell. This is what stores the messages from the external entities. The external entity could generally be just the message coming from the brain, within neurotransmitters to trillions of nucleus nuclei in the body, because there are trillions of cells and they have nucleus, and each one get messages from the brain. How does the brain get a message? It is from interaction with the external environment, internal environment. There are two walls. There is the wall of the internal environment, which is creating its own worldly view of things, which is like your mind creating a beautiful picture. So you're sending up hormones or chemicals that are beautiful to the brain, or sending that message to the brain, and the brain is sending it down to the nucleus of each cell, and then the nucleus is taking that message and converting it into actual chemicals, which is where we have to understand why amino acids is key, because these chemicals, we call them neurotransmitters, hormones, enzymes, they are all made from amino acids, whether it's base amino acids, the whole amino acid, or whether they are created with amino acids and other substrates. Amino acid is a key foundational part of these chemicals. So message from the brain to message up to the nucleus basically becomes a physical thing because of the existence of transmission of a message from the nucleus to its ribosomes. And there are many ribosomes in the cell. So ribosomes has a key function, and ribosome basically just does what the nucleus say. So the nucleus sends a message and say, make something called this human protein that is blah blah blah, and the ribosome don't even ask the nucleus, hey, blah 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 doesn't sound right. No, the ribosome just goes about and printing out that blah blah blah. Of course, to print blah blah blah, it needs the input called amino acids. The final product, when it is joined together, it's called human protein. We use the word human protein so that persons do not get confused with what you're eating, dietary protein, as compared to what the human being is making in his cell. That is what is important. So when you say you eat piece of beef, or you're eating animal protein, folks, this is not the reality of life. Like it or not, the reality of life is you are putting meat in your belly for the extraction of amino acids from the meat. The amino acids go into your blood from the liver, and then that's the amino acid that gets into there. If you have the 8 or 9 essential amino acids, you could create any amino acid, plus you could create other protein, human protein. If you do not have the 8 or 9 amino acid, when you are sending signals from the nucleus to the ribosomes, we could get into a deadlock, and that deadlock could lead to you eating your own self in the first case. And then of course, when you start eating yourself and you run out of eating yourself, then you eventually, that's what they call starvation. You would also notice that there is a word here called mitochondria, which is the daylight function, creation of magnesium ATP, sunlight, daylight, magnesium ATP. These words should play in your mind when you listen to that. So mitochondria uses the inputs of fuels such as fatty acids or glucose to make this ATP thing, which is the energy that powers the same protein, powers the protein, the human protein. Why is lysosomes mentioned here? No, we are going to talk about fasting, which is a specific type of stimulation or a specific signaler of cleansing. And therefore, when you speak about cleansing, the lysosomes are the little organelles. They exist, but when they exist to demand certain ways of working. So the lysosomes would demand that they are given a signal to clean out a cell, to take all the debris from a cell, all the misfolded protein and all the other garbage that exists in the cell. And they would go about trying to do that, but they cannot work on their own. They work by getting brooms and vacuum cleaners, and there's a specific recycling machine they have to get. It's like a shredder where they put the stuff into the garbage that they collect, and then they recycle it and pull out. They may pull out some amino acids from it and other substrates that have been there just wasting time. They could recycle some of this waste. So the lysosomes are very important in this discussion. So framework thinking says our awareness should know that without the amino acids, the lysosomes cannot do the cleaning job, because they are going to demand a vacuum cleaner. What is this vacuum cleaner they need, or this broom, or this bucket of water, or they may need a shredder? All these are human proteins. Therefore, the substrates called amino acids are very important to create these human proteins. And that is where we have to stop and ask ourselves, are we really and truly understanding our creation? Or are we just being locked into a belief system? Now, in this awareness session here, autophagy is what we've been taught a lot when we speak about fasting. Signaling to cleanse is what I call it, signaling to cleanse. So when we go into the state of not supplying by the mouth food, for let's say 16 to 18 hours plus 16 to 18 plus hours, more than 16 to 18 hours, make it even better. You are telling the brain no food is coming into the gut, and so the brain is telling trillions of nuclei, whatever the word is, that we need to start searching in ourselves at the cellular level for existing amino acids and see if we could pull out any waste product and see what we could recycle. At this point in time, if you believe this story, at this point in time, that's when lysosomes start to shine. Of course, they shine in the night, but that's when they start to shine in terms of their work. So they come and they say, many lysosomes, they say, okay, well, if we have to go and do this digging for gold and cleaning up the mopping up the place and stuff like that, we need extra buckets, vacuum cleaner, this and that. And guess how they do it? They cannot create the vacuum cleaner, which are proteins, human proteins. They cannot create those kind of different type of autophagy proteins and whatever it takes to recycle that protein when they clean it up, like brooms and vacuum cleaners. They can't. They depend on the nucleus sending a message to the ribosome, and the ribosome depend on you, the human being, having a starter block or a seed amount of amino acids available to start the autophagy process. So why have I changed my mind about fasting? Because I grew up starving myself. As a breaditarian, living on a breaditarian diet, fasting on a Saturdays or weekend would have been the most excruciating issues. And yes, it was. And it would have left my body in even a more um, criminal situation. What I have changed is to understand when I start a fast, I will start a fast with the presence of amino acids. Must start my fast with the presence of amino acid, whether it is essential amino acid supplement, an egg, or eggs and beef, and have that like 12 o'clock the day starting the fasting, so middle day, that's my diet. And then after that is water, little tea, no, of course, no plants in the evening. So let's say 12 o'clock, eggs and beef, and that would be 12 o'clock. And I would go to 12 o'clock the next day, maybe with some water from, if I, because you generally would go into dry fasting state by 6 o'clock that evening, because the most you would have is teas and liquid in the evening after you eat your eggs and steak. You would then say in the evening, well, maybe 2 hours after, you try to get some liquid in you. You might be craving liquid, but you would have to wait for digestion to take place in your acidic stomach. You don't want to tame down that gastric acidity when it's digesting meat and eggs. You need to leave it very, very acidic. Let it digest all the amino acids. And maybe 2, 3 hours after, you have a little sip of water or your favorite tea, whatever your tea is or whatever you drink. You drink that, and you come to the point where you go to 6 o'clock. Maybe you might have your last cup of water, 5, 6, and you have your last kidney release around 5 or 6, because the kidney would do an evening flush because it's preparing you to go into bed. Remember, kidney is a daylight function, so kidney works like from 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. But in the evening, it goes and give you a last kind of good purge out so that you could go to bed and not pee your bed. Think about it, folks. Think about it. Kidney does not work so much in the night. It should not be working in the night to push urination. It is the gallbladder that should be holding the waste from the liver. The liver delivers you while you sleep. So when we get to the part where we see that our amino acids are critical for the seeding or the starting, like turning the key, you start saying, when you go to a fast, you should start your fast with amino acids. So sources of amino acids, of course, beef, eggs and meats, whatever, are essential amino acid supplement for those who are skeptical about meat. People like me, the vegetarian, right? So you put this in your system, and you should be able to go through the night. You should be able to go through the night without having to, because you have been living consciously aware that you don't have to be eating in the night. Of course, you know that. So by 12 o'clock is your last meal. 6 o'clock that evening, the most you would have had is liquid, whether it's your nice little herbal soursop leaf or your herbal mint tea with no sugar added, no honey, no extra, nothing, just your herbal beautiful tea. Very tasty, very delicious, very nutritious, very stimulating on whatever organ it stimulates. And then you go into the night and sleep. You make sure your room is dark. If you have a red light, you do a little 15 minutes red light, which will help you to stimulate the mitochondria so that they could know now it's time to calm down, or you do a little sunlight in the evening and you go to sleep. And you sleep and you sleep and you sleep. If you have problems sleeping, you look at another video, I'll explain to you why you don't sleep. But you would sleep because you have amino acids to make tryptophan, and you have enough tryptophan, sorry, to make melatonin and serotonin. So you will sleep anyhow. You sleep and you sleep and you sleep. And then you get to the next day. If you are fasting and you sleep from 6 to 6, that's 12 hours of what is called dry fasting, because you should be sleeping and not drinking in your dreams, right? So you're not getting up and drink. Some people like me who have kidney issues will get up in the night and urinate. Who have liver issues will get up in the night and urinate, because if your liver is giving problem in the kidney, you may compensate, and that could lead the kidney to not get its healing powers. So we'll talk about that in another video. Again, it's another story. So when we come to that point and we realize, hey, we sleep for 12 hours. That's 12 hours of dry fasting. All that we may want to do is say 6 to 6 to 12 hours, 13, 14, 15 hours. So you say 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. By 9 o'clock, you would break your dry fast. Now you are thinking there is no dry fasting here. Yes, that is dry fasting. That is 6 to 6, 12, 13, 14, 15 hours of dry fasting. All that you are doing is pushing yourself to not consume any liquids from 6 o'clock in the evening to 6 o'clock in the morning, and then put 3 or 4 hours if you could, or 2 hours, whatever you could afford, to go to 9 o'clock. You could stay in your bed and sleep. Make it even better. Of course, you would have gotten up to urinate normally in around 5, 6 o'clock. You would have to do a urination. Urinate, you may want you wash your hands, so it's a soft dry fasting. Some people, they don't wash their hand when they are doing hard dry fasting. Who cares? But the point is, you don't put water in your mouth, you don't put liquid in your mouth until about 9 o'clock. That's a dry fast. Now you wake up and you say, time to break the fast. You want to break the fast if you are doing a water fast with water. But this is where I change my mind again. I would not advise people to break their water fast with water. I would advise them to break their water fast with fats or oils. Put some butter or some, well, olive oil is great. Olive oil, salt, a little lemon juice, maybe cayenne pepper, something like that. Mix it up, and take a shot of that. And then you chase with some water afterwards. Sip it, sip it, sip it, sip it afterwards. Why, folks? So in this story, apparently, while you are fasting and while you are sleeping in the night, apparently there is this organ called the liver. And the liver delivers you, meaning it does the cleansing work, it does the detoxification work, whatever that means, and it takes the garbage out and put it in a place called the dumping gallbladder. Now, the dumping gallbladder, and this is happening every night according to the story, the dumping gallbladder just holds the garbage. Basically, it does not know that it has to dump the gallbladder. It doesn't until it gets a signal. Now, that signal comes from the conscious human being who knows that the gallbladder last night was acting as a holding area, and to get the bile to come out of the gallbladder, you need to put fats in your mouth. So if you are doing a fast, then you have to consider that you would have been not just concentrating bile for digestion, but you are also pulling out a lot of waste, because fasting brings you to a state of detoxification, autophagy, and that means there is a lot of waste coming out. So that waste goes to the gallbladder at night. Of course, some went out to the urine through the metabolic urinary process, but a lot of it would have gone to the gallbladder from the liver, and that is a specific type of waste. They say heavy metals is one of them there. You don't want to leave that in the gallbladder, so you want to trigger the gallbladder to dump by putting in something of fats and oil. So the little bit of olive oil in the morning, a little bit of olive oil, a little salt, little cayenne pepper, lemon juice. You drink that, and then you have water if you want to continue to a water fast. You have your water afterwards. What that would do, it would cause the gallbladder to come down. Now, if your stomach is empty, you may want to put a binder. I wouldn't say what is a binder, but you may want to put a binder to grab onto this waste so that they would not be reabsorbed in the small intestine, as well as because you had put a little extra acidity in an empty stomach, you may get a nice little purge out. Yes, you may. Because you see, the acidity in the lemon juice in an empty stomach would cause the stomach to dump, because a stomach loves to be acidic only when it is in the process of digesting, or else why would it just become acidic? It does it want to digest its own cell walls? No, it doesn't. So it dumps, and when it dumps, the good thing is you had fats, so that the duodenum gets the signal and sends it up using the hormone called cholecystine kinase, cystic, up to the gallbladder, and the gallbladder sends down the waste to neutralize the acid. And that now brings, because it's an empty stomach, it brings down the stuff faster from the 30 feet or 20 feet of small intestine, according to the story, down into the colon, and then you may get to pass this out. Some people may say they need a binder because a binder could help grab onto some of the toxic substance from mold and fungus, which is what we are fighting. This is the devil. The mold and fungus is the devil. And we understand that now, so we say to ourselves, whether we are doing 1 day or 2 days fasting, we have to be conscious that the first thing we'll put in our stomachs is not water or fruit juice, but it's something that will flush the gallbladder. If you are on a fruit juice fast, you may prepare yourself like that and then go into your fruit juice fast, meaning that you extend your fast after that you eat fruit juice, so you could get your loads of glucose, and it will be daytime, so you need your loads of glucose and your potassium, your magnesium, and your sodium, which would be your electrolyte. So you would go into fruit juice as it is the day, and you would not be lying down in your bed, because of course in the day you would be trying to utilize your magnesium, potassium, sodium, and your glucose by the muscles. So you'll be active during that fasting time. You should not be sitting down during your active time and saying, oh, you're fasting, blah, blah, blah. Take all this nonsense from your mind. Fasting is not killing yourself. But what is happening inside that cell again at the time now, that's like the day after, is that you don't have to worry about amino acids anymore, because all that you wanted to have is a starter block or a seeder to start the process of creating what the ribosomes would create, what the lysosomes needs, which would be the little garbage can and the little recycle bin. Now they would have started to recycle things. They are pulling out amino acids from, they are pulling out waste protein and misfolded protein and protein that was glycated because of so much glucose here stuck in the pathways. They are just cleaning up everything, and when they are cleaning up everything, they put it in the recycle bin. The recycle bin crush that up and it says, hey, here is some lysine, here is some amino acid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they are getting amino acids now. So now this is important because they are now pulling amino acids from waste. Now you do that for 2 days, 3 days, you should not feel anything bad. Now for a woman, 2 days might be too much, a day and a half might be okay, right? You break your fast for a woman, maybe 2 days for the most. You break your fast same way. You break your fast with fats and oil, and then you put amino acids back into your body to start up the thing. If you break it in a day, then you remember it's kidney you're breaking it for. You start with fats and oil to flush the gallbladder in your stomach down to the small intestine, but after that you are going to juice. If you break your fast in the evening, you just return to the Cheerio protocol and say, what do I eat in the evening? Well, of course you eat fats and oils, amino acid substances in the evening. You don't go and drink fruit juice in the night and go and lie down and sleep. Fruit juice in the night to go and sleep means you are putting glucose in your bloodstream, and glucose in your bloodstream at night, what is it doing there? It's gonna stay there. What is gonna do when it's stay there? It's gonna glycate all the now incoming healing proteins, and it's gonna cause a lot of other issues. In the day, the glucose is gonna fly to the muscles because the muscles is active, and that's what glucose is meant to do. So we could discuss that anyhow differently. So here is some of the things that I've done. You consume some of the essential amino acids to do the starter, the seeding of the thing. Some people say bone broth, blah, 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 that's fine. You could throw in a little NAC during that to help the production of glutathione. They say glutathione is your master antioxidant. and it is created by the muscles. That's why we should not be saying when we are fasting, we're going to just lie down. No, give your muscles a little thing. Walk about, do your thing as normal. Get your activity going, my friends. Because remember, the recycle bin, while it might be recycling protein, it might be getting some loose molecules of amino acids too. So we do some of that. Now you can't go into um fasting and saying you're gonna just pump amino acids, which is protein sources, dietary protein. You don't do that because you don't want to protein. Of course, excessive protein does convert itself, excessive amino acids in the body, when it's not being used for making human proteins, would be converted back into glucose. So you don't just jump around and say, well, I could just eat, no, meat or whatever. If you're fasting for 2 days, you are fasting for 2 days. You are fasting for 2 days. Yes, you need a little amino acid to stimulate the process. After you stimulate the process, you fly with the process. If you come into the daylight and you want to go from into water fasting, go into water fasting for the second day. If you want to go into juice fasting, which is like fruit juices, watermelons, with the seeds, with the rind, with the skin, and you blend that and you drink it, go into that after you flush the gallbladder. Now, some people do say there is something called flush the gallbladder. That is not true because we are always flushing the gallbladder. It's just that the word flush has been misquoted. Flushing means we are literally pressing the flush toilet. You have to press the flush toilet handle or press the button on the flush toilet for the toilet to let go the water. That's what we are doing to the gallbladder. Once we are putting in fats into our stomach, the gallbladder naturally is getting the signal. CCK is going up and say flush. So when we say the word flush the gallbladder, we are using the natural process. Now, as a breaditarian, I must confess, these information were not clear for me. So for my breaditarian 33 years, I did not understand that in the morning when I get up and I have my big, beautiful bowl of cereal and my almond milk, I was doing myself the most critical injustice. And then in the midday, I would have had my roti or my wrap of salads. And in the evening, I would come back and have my bread toasted. And then I would have had maybe some kind of vegetables, or whatever we call them, cucumber, salt, and vegetables nicely done and pureed to dip with a crispy bread. Or maybe I would just have another bowl of cereal and my great almond milk. I never understood that these behavior patterns and traits was really a disgrace to the gallbladder. So what we eventually would end up happening to us, our gallbladder would become sluggish, our gallbladder would become maybe blocked with smudge if we do not do those things when we are fasting or when we are sleeping at night. So when we get up in the morning, we are consciously saying to the people who are eating eggs and things normal and they don't even know what they are doing, but they are blessed. Now you should understand why when you get up in the morning and you have an egg before your bread, you have the egg first, or you have your coffee with a little piece of butter, or you have your little shot of olive oil with a little salt or whatever, little thing, shot of olive oil with salt. You now start realizing you have your cocoa tea, real cocoa. That's the cocoa, not those thin stuff. We're speaking about cocoa, like the cocoa balls that you have in Grenada. You then realize, hey, all this is the fats. The oleic acids are found in all these things. And when you put that into your stomach, the stomach says, okay, when I start to release stuff, the duodenum gets that signal and say, hey, send up a signal to the gallbladder to flush. And the gallbladder knows to release the bile. Release the bile. And when the bile comes down, when the bile flows, every piece of trash from the gallbladder comes out. And that is a day-to-day daylight, day-to-day morning process that we have to do. And then of course you do it when you eat your meat in the day and when you eat your thing. But as a vegetarian, you know what you're eating. So you become conscious of that and you understand why you need to put something with a little fats and oil in your stomach every morning. You do it not because you don't understand, you do it because now you are aware. And that is very useful to increase when you are fasting, because when you are fasting, you have increased this cleaning cycle from the autophagy process would increase how much more waste than a night's sleep. And so when you increase more waste, you should be doing this more often, or you should be conscious of doing it in a more pronounced way. And of course, when we say flush the gallbladder, we ain't talking about no big kind of whatever, whatever, whatever. No, we are simply saying the first thing you put in your stomach is something with fats and oil to trigger cholecysteine kinase to go up to the gallbladder to tell it, hey, dump your waste, dump your waste. Because we are not conscious that last night, or yes, last night, the liver was just pulling out waste because while this whole cellular cleaning is taking place by the lysosomes, the waste is going back to the liver. The liver is pulling that waste, putting it into the gallbladder because the liver, unlike the kidney, doesn't force you to say, go and take a number two. The kidney will tell you, hey, I put something in gallbladder in kidney bladder. You better go and urinate. You can't stop that. But with the liver in the night, it's delivering you, but you have to deliver yourself by getting up and be conscious. Hey, an egg with a piece of butter, and that's fine because you have the fats coming from the egg and the piece of butter. You're good to go. Cocoa tea, you're good to go. For those who are on a vegetarian diet, olive oil, that is your friend with a little salt and lime to help stimulate the process. So this is a natural thing we should have understand and save ourselves. So the last point on my slide here, I know this is a long one, but this is for me. The body needs amino acids, essential amino acids, right? The body does not store amino acid like fat in the adipose tissues or like glucose, which is stored as glycogen. And if you have real excess glucose, it converts it to fat and store it in different tissues, right? And same adipose tissue, but you know, some of the fat could store on your organs, liver first, kidney second, other organs next. You know, we give them fat different name. Visceral fat for the bad ones, and then subcutaneous fat for those that might be not so bad. But the fact is, the glucose, when left, when it's in abundance and not being utilized by the mitochondria, would eventually convert to fat. The easiest way to see that is to just take a coconut. A coconut goes from mineral electrolytes into sweet coconut water and then finally into what we call coconut meat. If you watch that process, you would understand that glucose converts to fat very simply. We should have observed that in nature. Same thing in the body. Um, During prolonged fasting, if essential amino acids are not at least used to seed the process of creating the what I call the cleaning out enzymes, the little vacuum cleaners and the little brooms and the little shredder, the lysosomes would sit there and cannot do their work. So the ribosomes is the one that makes the vacuum cleaner, the shredding machine, and all that is needed to hand it to the lysosomes to do their work of cleaning up. So here we know we have to go back to understand the importance of the ribosomes in the night, because night is a fasting state issue. And so we cannot sit and say we don't understand why we have to eat an egg as or the eggs and beef as our evening portion. Our evening portion, the last meal, should be one that is focused on amino acids. Does not mean you don't want to use your herbs. If you want to use your herbs in the evening, that's fine. That's herbs, but not plant-based starch and plant-based sugars. Because what happens to glucose in the body in the night and you are sleeping? Ask yourself the question. Thank you so much for viewing this. If you are here and you have as again, you know, the statement says awareness, you could say oh okay, and you could stop there, or you could say let me go and try to do some more research. Have a wonderful day. And again, this is a story coming from Moses, and every story has a beginning and an end. This is the end of my story for today.